Assalamu alaikum everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Henna and my channel is all about self-improvement for the God-conscious person. I'm going to be talking about my experience being off of sugar, added sugar specifically, for 30 days. I have a personal belief that if you cannot do something for 30 days straight, you're pretty much screwed when it comes to the self-improvement game, because self-improvement requires your ability to do something consistently day after day, regardless of if you like it or not. So this is an experiment that I did for myself. And to give you a bit of background story, and the reason why I even started this game of cutting out sugar from my diet was because I was dealing with pretty severe, or what I thought was hormonal acne. And it had calmed down, and then all of a sudden, within 2 months of it calming down, I had a major flare up. It was horrible. The entirety of my face was covered in breakouts. And I'm normally not someone who's very affected by acne. It is what it is. You know, I never wanted it as an adult, but it happened. So I didn't let it get to me. But this time it got to me because it was everywhere. Almost felt like there was not an inch of my face that was not covered with acne. And then after the acne would go away, I would end up having hyperpigmentation, which is those dark patches. And I was just sick and tired of it. And so I decided, okay, I had tried the products, I tried the prescriptions, this is not working. What is something I can do that's going to work from the inside out? And I kept coming across people who had gone sugar-free and found that it helped a lot. Now, quick part of the story, it ended up being that it was my sunscreen that was causing my acne. So now my skin is much clearer, alhamdulillah, and it's healing, but I still don't regret going through the 30 days. So I'm going to talk to you about how I went about making this happen, and then what are the effects that I saw. So first and foremost, how did I cut it out? One thing that I'll say is that when it comes to sugar, I'm not someone who has much of a sweet tooth. So that made it a lot easier for me to be able to cut out sugar. This is a lesson in life. Some people are going to be able to achieve something much more easily because they just are primed for it, because of certain skills they have, certain desires they have, certain knacks they have for things. That was just my story. But first and foremost, I avoided eating out. I just tried to avoid restaurants because that's usually where you're going to end up finding added sugar in things, especially if you're going for desserts. 2 is when I did have my sweet tooth, I opted for fruits. Now, fruits obviously contain sugar. It's still a form of glucose, but when you're eating sugar from fruits, you're getting all of the nutrients alongside it. You're getting fiber alongside it, so that helps to dampen your blood sugar spike. Your blood sugar spike and insulin resistance, all of this is such an important part of your health. I will hopefully make a video about it one day. 3 is I kept other snacks that were sugar-free, more protein heavy, so that when I was snacky, I wasn't reaching for something that had added sugar in it. Next is I stayed hydrated. Now, I know this sounds kind of weird. What does hydration have to do with sugar? But when you're not hydrated, a lot of times you will notice that you're going to be more hungry and you're going to have more cravings. Your brain mixes up the signal, essentially, of hunger and thirst. And so sometimes if you're thirsty, your brain will send a signal that makes you feel hungry, and then you're more likely to reach for something that's going to be a quick calorie spike. Next is what's the hardest part, which was I said no when I was offered. An example is I had gone over a friend's house to visit her, and she had made dinner for me and a few others who had come over. They had dessert and they had an incredible, basically, lemonade mix, and I just had to say no. I'm on a sugar-free diet and I can't have this. And learning how to say no and just making it a part of essentially my identity that I am not someone who has sugar at this point made it super easy to maintain consistency. So all of that for a month, what did I notice? What happened? Did anything even happen? Is this a gimmick? Did it really work? So the first thing I'll say is that yes, it worked. It absolutely worked. It had an overwhelming number of positive effects for my health and things that I could noticeably tell were improved. First off is I noticed that day to day I was having less fatigue. I was just feeling less fatigued. I was able to get through the day with more energy. This makes complete sense because if you're not taking the added sugar in and you're not taking these simple carbs in, you're less likely to have those blood sugar crashes after spikes, which is when you feel tired. Interestingly enough, I felt like I had less digestive issues. I felt like I wasn't having, I don't really bloat, but I wasn't having as much cramping or abdominal pain, intestinal cramping, which is usually what would happen. Next is, even when I woke up tired, I still was able to get through my day. So even if I didn't have a restful night of sleep, I was able to make it through the day. I feel like I was also able to think more clearly, which again was most pronounced when I was waking up after a bad night of sleep. Usually if I wake up after a bad night of sleep, I find myself taking a very long time to get into the swing of things, especially if I'm at work. But while off sugar, I didn't feel that as much. These next two things were shockers to me. I was not expecting this, and especially not this quickly. Usually it takes several months for these symptoms to show up. But this might be TMI, but basically, one, my period came 5 days early, which never happens. Never. Mine is typically 1 to 3 days in the same window, but it came early. And another thing I noticed is that my PMS symptoms that I would normally get, which would include a good 3-day period where I'm feeling extremely depressed, a period of time where I'm extremely anxious, a point of time where I just feel so fatigued, there's shortness of breath, all of these symptoms that I usually would experience and honestly would knock me out for a week. It gets so bad sometimes that I have to plan to make sure that I don't have too many commitments during that week. I did not experience those symptoms at all. I didn't experience the depression. I didn't experience the anxiety. I did not experience the shortness of breath. I very slightly experienced fatigue and hot flashes. But honestly, this was incredible because I was able to get the work done that I would want to get because of not having these PMS symptoms. You don't realize sometimes how disruptive to life those symptoms can be. That was my experience quitting sugar for 30 days. Pretty straightforward. Is it something I would recommend? Yes, 100%. I would recommend everyone trial this challenge in their life because the more we learn about how dangerous added sugar is to our body, the way it affects our brain and our neurochemistry, the way it affects our digestive system and our microbiome, the way it affects our ability to focus, the way it influences insulin resistance. There are so many negative effects that honestly really outweigh the positive effects, which is a quick dopamine hit, that I think it is worth it for anyone to try for 30 days straight, to leave it and just see what happens, see what you notice, just see what happens. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then please like the video, comment below if you would ever try quitting sugar, and subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching.